Hi there guys, and welcome back once again, finally for like the first time in God knows how long, to Jonesy's question time. It's good to be back. It's been really good to see people sending in the questions again, and people seem to be excited about it. So let's just get straight into it. What do you make of the recent criticism of the sitcom Friends, and were you a fan back in the day? Well, first and foremost, yes, I was a big fan, still am a big fan of Friends. It's one of those that I used to watch, when it was on TV. I remember watching the last episode and just being absolutely, I couldn't believe it was happening. But yeah, absolutely loved it, and kind of watching, because obviously when I was watching it at the start, I was, I think I first must have seen of it when I was like 8-9 years old or something, and I'll have been like 13, 14 when it came off air. So going back and watching some of the like earlier episodes, and obviously being older and getting some humour that I didn't get when I was younger, has been great. And I mean, it's just great. It's such an easy thing to watch. It's a very easy, simple comedy. But then again, I think there's some aspects of it that are very clever in the way it was done, and there's a lot of comic timing in it. And I think the acting in it are great as well. They couldn't have picked better people to play the roles that they did. In terms of the recent criticism of it, if people haven't seen, I can't remember who it was who did the article. I don't know whether it was a worldwide article or whether it was here in the UK, but it was basically saying how millennials who have been watching Friends for the first time, because they've put all the series on Netflix now, so obviously it's created a new generation of viewers, and a lot of them being millennials, and the fact that they've never seen it before, I find that hard to believe. But people that have seen it for the first time are complaining that they find some of it, the humour sexist, that it's very outdated, that some of it is racist, and I weep for the state of where this world is going. Seriously, we have created this culture now where you can't say or do anything without someone somewhere being offended by it or reading too much into something. I mean, these people who come out and say stuff like this, I would love to know what they watch or read or listen to at home, because like, you could take anything out of any speck of a daily routine from somewhere and find something wrong with it if you look deep enough into it. But Friends, racist, and say, oh no, I'm not having it at all. It's an absolute disgrace to me that people are complaining about it. I mean, it's that thing of, yeah, when you look at some of the bits, the way that Joey kind of treats women, and the way he kind of looks at women sometimes. But I mean, you look at something that went beyond Friends, you look at How I Met Your Mother, and you look at Barney. For me, Barney is a lot worse than what Joey was, but you never hear anyone complaining about Barney. And right, do you know what? Rightly so, because it's funny. There are people out there that are like that. Women are just as bad as men in that aspect. There's always women that treat men that way as well, and it's completely harmless. This is the thing about it. It is all harmless fun. It's all so innocent, and people are wanting to make such a problem with it and create a headline out of it, I suppose. And it's just, if we start going like this and start actually adhering to what these people are saying, then we're not going to be able to watch or listen to anything fun anymore. TV shows and comedy in particular does kind of outdate. I mean, you look at, well, especially looking back at some of the things that were out in like the sort of the 60s and the 70s. I mean, you look at On the Buses. Now, watching On the Buses, it is shocking just quite how sexist some of the stuff was that you saw. The way they were properly objectifying like women on there and just using them. And you look at things like, I can't remember which comedy it was. Was it Love Thy Neighbour? Some of the racist things that went on there. And looking back, it is shocking how they got away with that. But again, back in the 60s and 70s, it was more of an accepted thing. So it is that thing of, as culture and everything, time moves on, some comedy does get left behind. But honestly, looking at Friends, and to call it racist and sexist, I'm not having that. Is the current Manchester City team the best in Premier League history? This is a tough question. I mean, they're certainly up there. I mean, personally, I would still go for. I really loved the Arsenal Invincibles team. I thought they were fantastic, and fantastic to watch as well. I mean, you watch Man City now, and yeah, they are they are a great team to watch and a great side to watch. But a lot of the time, some of the football they play, I can find a bit, the constant passing between like the back four and the goalkeeper and everything. Sometimes I find very frustrating to watch, and it can get quite boring for me. And yes, it leads to great things sometimes, but for me, that Arsenal Invincibles team, they just had something. They had something more about them. When you look at the team that they had, I mean, like from defence, you had Jens Lehmann in goal, who wasn't. I mean, he made a few mistakes, but he was still pretty solid. Like you had your Campbells, your Keowns, you had Ashley Cole as well, and then going at midfield, Vieira, of course, Ljungberg. Of course, you got like Bergkamp and Henry up front, and it was just such a magical side to watch. Especially, I mean, I was like 13, 14 at the time, and watching football like that was, even though it was bad for Leeds at the time, it was great to watch this fantastic side. And yeah, as great as Man City are, and I mean they're clearly going to go on and win the league this season very easily. Whether they win any other trophies. I mean, they probably will. I can see them probably getting through in the League Cup. They are a special side, and they are great to watch. But I just think sometimes watching them, I find myself getting more bored than what I did watching the Arsenal Invincible side. So for me, I would say the Invincible side just nick it. But yeah, Man City are great at the moment and pretty unstoppable. What job are you currently doing, and what jobs have you had since you left Ketley's? Currently I'm unemployed. I've actually got an interview this week, so fingers crossed I'm going to get that one, but I'm not going to say too much about that. So since leaving Ketley's, I have worked at a bargain boo shop, in a local bargain boo shop, which was fun. I was there for about 7 or 8 months, and I pretty much got to a stage where I was quite soon bumped up to like sort of deputy assistant kind of thing. So it was a tough job with it was a constant on the go kind of thing. You didn't have really a lot of time to stop or relax in it, and there was a lot of different aspects to it. But it was fun and it was enjoyable. It was nice, kind of the regulars that you kind of got to meet and got to speak to and get on with, and kind of create that kind of rapport with them and everything. So I do miss that, but I don't miss anything else really from it. There were certain parts of it that were not enjoyable. After that, I had a little bit of time off work, and the last job that I had was actually working at the O2 Academy in Leeds. Basically just doing promotions work for them, but it never really surfaced to anything. Although I'm not complaining too much, because some of the shifts were working, because I started around freshers time. So it was like hours from like 12 till 4 in the morning, waiting outside clubs and handing out flyers and various promotional stuff. So yeah, the hours were definitely not the greatest, but it was fun while it lasted, and it was just a little thing to sort of put me on. And then yeah, I'm kind of here waiting to get another job, but like I say, fingers crossed. Hopefully, if things go well, I should be in a job soon, so we'll see how that goes. Name your boat if you had one. Oh man, if I had a boat, that'd be amazing. I mean, I'm not exactly ideally placed for a boat, living kind of just outside the centre of Leeds. But if I had a boat, I would call it Titanic Take 2. Oh, mind you, wasn't... Hasn't there just been a, like, Titanic 2 or something? Am I making that up? Let me just check that. Titanic 2 was a planned ocean liner intended to be a modern-day replica of the Olympic-class RMS Titanic. However, the maiden voyage of the ship was delayed to 2018. As of December 2017, construction is yet to commence. So there we go. Titanic 2 has already been done, or is about to be done. So wait, but it hasn't been the end yet. So it's Titanic 2. So if I called it Titanic Take 2, I could get away with it. So yeah, I quite like that as a fun thing. Either that, or I call it Jeff Vader, or Jazz Chicken. Ideas had references. Know your stuff. What is your view on Nirvana and Kurt Cobain? Interesting question. Nirvana are a band that they're certainly not my favourite. I mean, I think if I was to pick, the problem with Nirvana for me is I don't mind them and I can listen to them, but it's just all a bit too. There's not enough oomph behind the songs. It's just a bit too. That's what I feel when I listen to Nirvana. I kind of feel. Like if I was feeling down, I wouldn't listen to a Nirvana song. But yeah, I mean the classic, you know, like Smells Like Teen Spirit and, you know, Heart Shaped Box and Come As You Are. You know, I do like those songs. I mean, my favourite Nirvana song is from Nevermind, Drain You. That's sort of my favourite song because it's just there's a bit more, the melody to it. There's slightly upbeat notes there. But yeah, in general, I'm not the biggest fan, to be honest. I mean, was it 3 or 4 albums they released because they weren't really around that long. So yeah, I mean, I don't mind them. And I mean, as for Kurt Cobain, I mean, what can you say? Clearly a very troubled soul. And again, it's kind of one of those, you know, clearly someone who has a lot of talent there, and artistic talent. I mean, he was actually an artist as well, as obviously doing with his music success. One thing I did like about Kurt Cobain was the fact that he didn't put as much emphasis on lyrics and everything. He found it because like he was quite dirty and moany in the way he sung things, and I think people used to kind of have a go at some of what like his lyrics meant and everything when they'd actually kind of transcribed it wrong and it wasn't what the lyrics were, but he was more about the music. I think he always did the music first before doing the lyrics, and I actually quite like that. I think there's often too much reading into some lyrics. I mean, it's nice to have, you know, some songs to have certain meanings and everything. It's great, but to me, I get more out of the kind of the music and the sound and everything rather than reading too much into the lyrics. So I kind of like him for that. But yeah, I mean, it was all very kind of sad, really. I mean, it's one of those things. Once he got hooked on heroin and everything, that were it. I mean, that's pretty crazy. I think I was reading once he basically OD'd before a performance or something, and instead of ringing for an ambulance, Courtney Love injected something else into him to bring him round, and then he went and did the performance and no one knew any different. And that's just when you're living like that and you've got someone with you who's not really helping you out, it was only ever going to go one way, really, and sadly that's the way it did happen. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I mean, the best thing to go out of Nirvana for me is Dave Grohl. I know that's probably not the nicest thing to say, but for me, yeah, Dave Grohl came out of Nirvana and I love him. He's like the greatest man alive. So yeah, those are my thoughts on those two. Do you think Leeds United will get top 6 this season? Probably not. The way it's going, it's not looking good, and it's very frustrating, really frustrating, because we've got a manager who, he was a nobody. Well, I say nobody. He was unknown to a lot of us. But he's clearly a good guy. He's clearly a good manager, and we clearly have a squad with good players in. We've shown this season that we are a side who can compete and can compete at the higher levels in the Championship. However, we have just not been consistent, and we've not kept that up. Now, the fact that the players have shown it at times, I mean, I always go back to like the Forest away game. That was a real sign of kind of that was probably at our highest, and around that time, you know, beating, you know, Burton at home, that was a pretty high point, and just all around that time, that's when it was all clicking together. And since then, it has been completely up and down. You know, we start looking like we're getting back on track, and then we start losing again. And recently, it has not gone well. And that's when you've got to start looking at the manager and the coaching, and kind of behind the scenes, because we do have the skillful players. I mean, recently it hasn't helped with discipline. You know, Sai's stupidly spitting and getting himself sent off in the FA Cup at Newport. Or Kane been stupid and going to headbutt at Ipswich last week. And then yesterday, I mean, against Millwall, I didn't think it was a red card, Liam Cooper's red card, and a lot of people don't think it was. It was definitely a yellow card, don't get me wrong, but for a red card for that, I think was pretty diabolical. And in fact, it looks like the referee was going to give him a yellow. You can see him reaching for his back pocket, and then all the Millwall players start acting like they did, and then their bench started flaring up and everything started happening there. And then after all that died down, the ref then gave him a red. So I don't think that was right. So I don't think it was a red. So I think that was harsh on him. But again, you could argue, was there any need to put in a challenge like that at that point? So maybe a bit daft from Cooper. So we've certainly not been helped there. We've had a few injuries go against us, but we've still had a good enough side to compete better than what we have been recently. And I just think it's that consistency that is majorly letting us down. And I'm not saying sacking Christensen would be the best option right now. I definitely think we need to stick with him. But I think we definitely need to start looking at kind of coaching and behind the scenes and looking at the tactics. The players obviously have to take a certain responsibility, like I say, from the discipline side. But a lot of work needs to go. If we are to make top 6, I think it's possible. I think we can do it. I'm just not sure if it's going to happen. I think a lot needs to change if that is going to be the case. What are your views on safe standing? I'm all for it. I think it's a great idea. I think sort of the first example people go to is, like, I think it's Borussia Dortmund that have it, and it's worked really well for them. I think Celtic have introduced it at Celtic Park this year, or was it last year? Last year, this season, I think they've introduced it at Celtic Park, and it seems to be working fine there. I think Shrewsbury are the first English club to apply for it. I don't think they've actually had it fit in yet, but I think they've applied for it. And yeah, I see nothing wrong with it. It seems to be working. It certainly seems to be fitting the name of safe standing. There doesn't seem to be any issues there. And I always think, because the problem is, and the issue is, that a lot of games, especially like Leeds United away games, you end up standing anyway. No one ever sits down. So to incorporate a safe standing system where if you want to sit down you can do, but if not, then it's perfectly safe to stand up as well. And it's better than the terracing that used to be at grounds. It's a lot more modern and it seems to do the job. So yeah, I'm all for it. What are your views on Logan Paul? Oh, I could probably have done a separate video altogether for this subject. There's two ways. So looking at it directly and looking at Logan Paul, I mean, he's an idiot for a start. I mean, last year was not a good year for YouTube, and big YouTubers making mistakes and other channels sort of getting us in the shit and everything. But I mean, at what point do you think that filming in the Japanese suicide forest, filming a dead body, putting that video onto YouTube, not even doing that, but then having the dead body in the thumbnail, at what point do you think that's a good idea? At some point in your head you must think to yourself, right, I won't put this up, or I'll cut that part of the filming out, or we'll just how do you think that's a good idea, and how do you think you're going to get away with that unpunished? It's just the mindset behind that guy. I mean, he was thinking about the views the entire time. It's not a mistake. Like, it's not. There's mistakes and there's completely fucking up, and that was off the scale fucking up. To come out and he did two apologies. The first one was a written one, where he talked about the fact that he didn't do it for the views because he already gets views and it's not about that. And it was just a very half-assed apology where he didn't seem sincere at all. And then he brought out a video apology which was certainly a lot more sincere. And I do feel like he was being genuine. I don't think it was acting. If it was acting, then it means he's a very good actor, and I've seen his acting and he's not a very good actor. So I think it was genuine. So I mean, he shouldn't have done it in the first place. You just don't do it. But the second mistake was not coming out with that second apology as your first apology, really. But yeah, the guy's an idiot. And you look at his other content. I mean, you look at the other content that's come out from his time in Japan. It's disrespectful. I mean, there's cries of like being racist in there as well. And just looking at the other stuff, I mean, even Jake Paul. I mean, the thing about it is, I didn't even know who Logan Paul and Jake Paul really were. There were names that I'd heard of, but until this all came out, I didn't even know who they were. I'd never seen any of their content and where they come from. And just looking at them, they're a bunch of dickheads, really, aren't they? Let's be honest. But this brings me on to the second point, and talking about it. It makes me worry about, not about the fact that they release this content and do this content, but it makes me worry about the people that enjoy this content and support these people. And it's not, I can't even go on the fact that it's like a minority as well. The subs that they get and the views that they get and the money that they're making from that just worries me to the core. The fact that people find it entertaining and find it humorous and funny, the stuff that they do, is just so worrying. It's taking that lad culture that I hate so much and just completely intensifying it into these people and these videos, and people are lapping it up and loving it, and this seems to be the way that it's going. And it's like a steam train. It's a steamroller. It's steamrolling its way through, and people bloody love it. And I mean, the people that are still sticking up for Logan Paul, even though he came out and said, don't do that, I don't want your sympathy, I don't want you sticking up for me, I fucked up, and people still go out there and defend him and say that it was fine and there wasn't an issue behind it and it was a mistake and everything. I mean, Jesus Christ, it boggles the mind, it really does. And it I think it just shows the way YouTube's going and highlights the issues that are on the channel. So yeah, like I said, I could have done a separate video on those, really, but those are my quick thoughts on Logan Paul. And finally, what were your favourite games of 2017? 2017 wasn't really good for me gaming wise. Let's reword that. In terms of what I played, it wasn't good for me gaming wise, but I do feel that 2017 was a very good year for gaming. Quickly covered this in, I say quickly, we talked quite a lot about it in the Wise and Jones podcast. But yeah, I think it was a really good year for gaming. I really didn't play a lot of games that actually came out last year. I played Horizon Zero Dawn. I think I've maybe got halfway through that, but it's certainly a game that I want to go back to and is one that I can see myself completing. I really was enjoying it. I loved the gameplay. It felt very different to me. I loved the character, and I loved the way the story was going, and it was absolutely frigging beautiful. It was such a lovely game visually to look at. So Horizon Zero Dawn was pretty good. Assassin's Creed Origins, again, that came out last year, but I haven't played until this year, but I'm currently playing and I can't stop playing and I can't put it down, and I absolutely frigging love it. It is such a good game. I'm so glad that Assassin's Creed has been revived by this. They did such a good job of changing it, not changing it so much that it is unrecognisable as an Assassin's Creed game, but changing it enough that it has gone away from, Unity and Syndicate and the kind of shitness that it had turned into Assassin's Creed. It seems to have revived it. I mean, the map is massive. The map is massive, and you think you've kind of gone so far, and you think, oh, that must be the edge, but then there's further to the map. It's very in depth. I'm quite enjoying the story. I quite like the main character. There's not so much emphasis going back into the current day, but the bit that they do, I think is actually quite good. And actually adds to the story. It's not just kind of been plonked on for the sake of it. And yeah, I like the gameplay. I like the mechanics that they brought into it. It's certainly a different fighting style, but once you get used to it, it's quite enjoyable. Having Senu, the eagle, kind of scouting for you, I really like that mechanic as well. And the weapons in it, there's a massive different weapons and different styles, and in the leveling up system, I really like it. So for me personally, that's sort of my favourite game from 2017. So there we go. Those are all the questions that were sent in to me this week. So you did a fantastic job, guys. So let's keep that up. If you want to get involved in question time, then you can leave your questions in the comment section below. Either on this video, you can do it on the questions video that I released a couple of days ago, asking for questions. You can leave them at my Twitter at ChrisJonesLUFC, or you can leave them on my Instagram as well. I'm starting to put a few more posts on there, so if you want to do it, you can do it on there as well. So one new thing I'm going to be introducing to Jonesy's Question Time is emergency questions by the very funny and hilarious Richard Herring, who I like a hell of a lot. This isn't sponsored or anything, this is just my own decision. It's a book that I bought towards the end of last year, and it's something that he started doing. He does a thing called Richard Herring's Leicester Square Theatre Podcast, or a Hullister, as all the cool kids are calling it. And that's really great. It's something you can get on like iTunes and YouTube. He films them all. But something that came out of his podcast when he was asking like comedians and actors and stuff questions is he came up with emergency questions, and it became such a popular thing that he's decided to do a book for it. So he's released a book of over 500 questions, and they're all random, just sort of emergency questions and they're all quite funny. So at the end of each of Jones's Question Time, I'm going to ask one question, and I want you guys to send in your answers to the question, and I'll also answer the question in the next video as well. So the first one, I'm randomly going to stop at this page. So it is page 42, question 140. Could you ever have sex with someone that calls breasts boobies? What if they did it while you were having sex? Would you stop having sex with them? And I think that is quite an important question, and you will find out my answer next time. So if you want to leave your questions, you can do so. If you want to answer that question as well, you can do that. If you only want to answer that question, not ask a question, again, you can do that. I'll incorporate it all into the next video, and hopefully this can start something new and fun. So again, if you want this, I'll leave a description. I will leave a link in the description if you want to go buy this book. Like I say, really funny, and it supports a really great comedian as well, so do go check that out. And yeah, that's it for this week, guys. So thank you for everyone who sent in the questions and people that have been supporting the channel recently. I've really enjoyed it. It's been great getting back into it and interacting with you guys. So until next time, guys, thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you all very soon.